Go.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to Technical with Ethan. And today I'm here with Anthony Murano, a sound designer and sound enthusiast. So, Anthony, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hello. I'm Anthony. I've been in theater and doing sound for about 15 years. I started probably in 2005. It was about the first time I ever put my hands on a console. Actually started in high school and kind of really just evolved from there. But happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. How'd you get into technical theater and doing sound?
Really by lack of wanting to be in front of people. So like we just probably were laughing about
Yeah.
before this went on, being in front of people was something that I didn't want to do. And I didn't realize that until I was in like high school theater and we had to do a live show, and it was an improv show of all things. So as if that was not hard enough to get on stage as a high schooler, to do improv comedy was pretty difficult. So after that experience in a couple of shows, I didn't want to be on stage. So I had a theater teacher named John Hoganson, and he said, "Hey, that's great. There's just as many jobs as there are on stage and probably even more backstage." So he said, "You're going to help us run with our sound and our lighting and our sets and all of that stuff." So got hooked into that and decided to make that something I wanted to do. And eventually started going to this honor theater festival at Cypress College, which doesn't happen anymore, unfortunately. And we got to do workshops with teachers on the collegiate level and do workshops in the scene shop, building sets, talking about lighting, talking about sound.
Sure.
So I ended up going to Cypress College out of that positive experience. And I started working in the scene shop with Steve Bannock, who is still running the scene shop over there and has been for the last, he started when he was 28. He's pretty much been there his whole working career. And he really brought me in and taught me a lot about technical theater, working in the scene shop. We built shows. I then started to kind of drift into sound around that time because lighting, I was working for some lighting production companies to make some money. I was working as a freelance lighting tech, doing events like fashion shows and numerous just random events throughout Los Angeles and Orange County. And I quickly realized that lighting is very heavy. And if you've never had to like pick up like really heavy 4-aught PowerCon cable and drag it half a block or a mile to the workshop, it was something I didn't want to do. And I looked at sound and I looked at lighting, and I was just more intrigued with sound. Everyone can look at a light and say it's blue. Not everyone can agree on what sounds good. So that challenge really, really made me want to dive in and see how I can control all of these variables that we deal with in live sound. Like, we have to worry about how a performer is feeling. Lighting person doesn't. As long as they hit their mark, they're good.
Exactly.
So I think that challenge is really what made me want to go into sound almost exclusively, which was a hard thing to do at first because I was working primarily as a lighting tech. So I made the decision to stop taking all these lighting calls and only take the sound calls. And that was even down to like the union calls I was doing for local 504 and local 33 at the time. I wouldn't even take deckhand calls because I made a decision I wanted to do sound.
Yeah.
And then I finally got an audio call, started loading in some drum set, started getting exposed to bigger concert setups just by being a stagehand at my local union. And I then went to a job fair put on by USITT up in Westminster. It was a really small local chapter version of it. It wasn't the full-blown thing. But they had a small internship. Not an internship. They had a company there called PCPA, which is Pacific Conservatory for the Performing Arts, and that's in Santa Maria, California. And they operate out of 2 theaters, one in Santa Maria and one in Pomo. So it was kind of like a mini tour. You'd build a show in Santa Maria and then you take it down to the summer stock at in Solvang, which was a cool place to do summer stock theater.
Mhm.
And I was the A2 at the time, so it was my first real job where I got started in doing sound. In fact, I have a couple of pictures that I think you'll find interesting.
Yeah.
You go ahead and share my screen here. Looks like I'm disabled still, but what I ended up doing was uh, I worked at this internship, and I got this opportunity to uh, work with regional theaters and
Mhm.
AEA stage equity actors. So I was working with really professional talent,
Yeah.
and with a new production that they were actually doing with Steven Schwartz and his son Scott Schwartz, was an American premiere called My Fairy Tale. It was the
Mhm.
first time it ever debuted in America. It had been debuted in Denmark, or in Denmark, because it's originally a Danish show. So he debuted it in Solvang, where I was, and I got to work with Steven Schwartz. For those of you, he's the composer of Wicked and Pippin. He had another project that he was trying to get off the ground, and we got to do it, and I got to be a part of the American premiere cast. So that was a really cool thing, and that just instilled my love for doing sound.
That's
So
amazing.
I think from there, I had taken a break from college to go do that. Um, I'd taken a course to do that in college, or a break to do that in college,
Mhm.
and I came back to finish my degree at CSUF.
Uh-huh.
So that's where I did my BA. But let me show you some pictures that will
Yeah, no
help
problem.
kind of show the
Yeah.
progression a little bit.
Sounds good.
It's quite funny if you ask me. All right. Let me see. Hit play here. So this is me in high school.
Oh, wow.
I started on a Mackie 16 channel
Mhm.
with a dual Newmark CD player and an SM58 with a switch. Holla
Mhm.
at your boy.
Yeah.
This was actually, I was running playback for the cheerleaders and the football and
Sweet.
the basketball. So I was involved in student government in high school as
Mhm.
well.
Cool.
So this is really part of my beginnings.
Yeah.
I evolved into a DJ
Cool.
from this.
Mhm.
I loved DJing a lot, and I DJ'd all my school dances.
Sweet.
Ended up never going to any of them because I was an awkward
Yeah.
teenager, and so I was in student government. I ran all the sound systems for all the events, and they just needed to throw a party. I said, "That's great. I'll just buy some turntables and I'll be a
Yeah.
DJ."
Mhm.
I ran that business for 6 years doing really high-end weddings, and let me say, I never thought I was going to do that. So that was awesome.
That's crazy. That's cool.
I never had to work in like a burger joint or anything because of that job.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of flack for telling people that I was a DJ and then now I'm a professional sound engineer, but
Mhm.
I don't care. Um, I worked at Pirates Dinner Adventure on Beach Boulevard in Orange County.
Sweet.
They had an 850 seat arena that had a stunt show, um, with 850 seats in there, and it ran 7 days a week. There was no dark days. I would go in and mix a show for 100 people. Granted, it
Mhm.
was very empty,
Yeah.
but I got the opportunity to run a show on a Monday,
Mhm.
and
That's
that
great.
was
Yeah,
pretty.
yeah.
And so when you're going to school for sound and then you go to your job, which is mixing sound, I was very happy to have that, like, kind of take what I was learning, go directly apply it.
Exactly.
It really just drilled it all in.
Yeah.
This is I did a lot of installations. This is a photo of a before and after picture of Cypress College.
Nice.
Um, so when I got in there, they had this nice 42 channel Crest Audio X8 analog console with
Mhm.
all the DCAs, and I had outboard compression and all these outboard RF stacks. So to the left and right of me were just stacks and stacks of racks.
Yeah.
So that's when I started mixing musicals, and mixing
Sweet.
musicals on a console that doesn't have the technology of like a Digico nowadays.
Mhm.
It was closest to an old school education as I was going to get on the cusp of a digital age.
Yeah.
Because as I was coming into this industry, all the digital consoles were coming in. The Behringer X32 was coming in. The Yamaha
Mhm.
M7 was
Yeah.
affordable. Everybody was using these consoles,
Yeah.
and so beginning of my career, I saw a lot of Yamaha, and I saw a lot of conversion to Yamaha.
Mhm.
Um, you can see, I mean, it's just streamlined. We had to rebuild the whole tech booth.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw a show. Did it in the Heights recently. I went to go see that show.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That's awesome. The stage is still set in the Heights. It's still sitting on the stage. I'm pretty sure.
That's great. Yeah. They never got time to move that out.
They just literally packed up the mics. I was talking to the sound designer. The sound designer of that show was a mentor. He's the same guy who taught me how to mix on the pictures that you're seeing here.
Is that Donnie Jackson?
No, so Donnie Jackson is like the theater manager, and I'm talking about Ray Gibson. He's an adjunct faculty member through there, but Ray is the one that taught me how to mix a musical. I learned what compression was through him, and Ray also taught me what networking was in its infancy of being in audio. So when I learned about audio, I was also learning about networking, which is I can tell you now, if you are not learning about networking, you really should. It's kind of where we're heading, unfortunately. I mean, now there's replica of analog, but there's ways to get it in and out of a digital infrastructure. So I spent a lot of time doing these conversions for places like Cypress College. I even went, let me fast forward, I even did some more, but when I was working at Cypress College, I also worked at Disneyland.
Sweet.
I was working on Phantasmic.
That's great.
But I wasn't in technical ops, which was at the time my goal. And I wanted to be, in the technical department, as every technical theater kid wants. But I actually got to be in a department called show support. And show support was responsible for all of the coffee and tea, the tarps that block the vision of the guests, the scraping out of the mud holes that you have to put the pole in because the people were on the island all day running around. So we basically responsible for turning over Tom Sawyer's Island into what will be Phantasmic. I got to load some pyro. I got to do all these other cool things, including I don't know if this is that NDA part, but I was really close friends with this character on the screen, if this makes any sense. So I wasn't able, and it was really cramped inside. I can just tell you that.
That's so cool. That's amazing.
So, and it's just like a modified, wave runner with, looking at a hole like that. So cool. It was really cool. And I was 18 at the time. So 18, I was real young. Wow. And so I was like, this is awesome. And I got fireworks and Mickey shooting flames out of his fingers. Until the night, I caught some water. The tail kind of went bogged down, and I kind of sunk in the middle of a show.
Oh wow!
And had to get pulled out by what's called the workboat. Full show stop, and magic ruined.
Yeah, exactly.
So I even big spectacle shows. Things happen.
Exactly.
They didn't last long, so they're not in the show anymore. So it was along the reasons of that they had to get rid of them. I came back after that internship I was talking about, and I went to Cal State University Fullerton. I worked on a couple of shows. The picture on the left is Spring Awakening. The picture on the right is Spamalot. Nice. As you can see, both are mixed on the M7. I would take the M7 over the LS9 for the fact that it has a DCA. And believe me, you should have seen the programming I had to do on Spamalot, because in order to link the DCAs, you had to do fader link, and then you're doing scene switches, and you're like controlling 10 faders with one fader. And it's just,
that's crazy.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Crazy. Yeah, that's so ridiculous.
I'll take even the X32 because it has a DCA ability. So, it was an interesting learning experience. And so I graduated from CSUF with my BA in sound engineering. And my graduation, ironically, had the worst sound ever. I'll never forget it. All the mics were routed to the monitors, and the main PA might as well have been off. So,
oh wow,
it was a tragedy, and so it really instilled, again, you have a future in this. There is a need for this. See, I'm at my graduating with this, and the guy who's paid professionally doesn't know how to route anything to the main. So it's like, okay. This is some more productions from CSUF. This is the Little Theater. What is on left here is Xanadu, and on the right, I sound designed an opera, which was a
Oh
very cool
wow,
thing.
that's
So
cool.
which at the time they told me just design some fold-back monitors for the people on stage,
Uh huh.
just reinforcing the music.
Yeah.
Then the MD comes over and says, "By the way, is there any chance we can put a mic on the lead character? She doesn't want to hurt her voice." So I said,
Yeah.
"That's great. I now need 27 other microphones, and I
Oh
need
wow.
a whole team, an A2, and I need a week of tech that now I can't get back."
Yeah.
So somehow overnight we pulled all of that together, and we did a dirty ring out of the system, put the mics on them, and we it turned in from a little bit of foldback to a full scale musical production in almost a day. So
Wow. That's ridiculous.
it was like I know I'm a student, but this wouldn't even happen in real life. But you
Yeah.
know what? It was great because I had to really get my stuff together very, very quickly. And my
Mm-hmm.
team at the time, they were working on both my shows because I had this show and Spring Awakening at the same time in
Oh
the
wow.
same semester.
Oh
So
gosh.
my full scale musical sound design plus an opera with some foldback,
Mm-hmm.
um, all in the same semester with me trying to graduate. So school was beneficial for me because I
Yeah.
put a lot into it. Now, I don't wouldn't recommend that everybody go to school for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I I really don't think it is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I did it for myself because I wanted a well-rounded education,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get a degree because not a lot of people in my family had one. In fact, not really anybody had one. So I wanted to have that. And that was a big thing for me. I completed it. 2 weeks later, I got a job working on Princess Cruise Lines. And that was a very hard experience if you've never lived on your own. Luckily, I'd done that internship, so it was kind of familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're young and living on board a cruise ship, it's a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting experience because you get people from every walk of life, and I'm talking people from parts of the world that you can barely pronounce. I have come to build so many good relationships from my cruise experience. I have friends in Brazil, Australia, just all over the world because of that experience. And
Yeah.
you find that it's actually where the fun's at. Like I was saying earlier, because
Mm-hmm.
as a sound person, you get this sweet console. So you get
Yeah.
this. So as you can see, you get a venue profile. But
Yeah.
nowadays they're ready with Digico SD7s with the full theater software
That's
package
crazy.
with
Wow.
waves, like with
Yeah.
waves. So it's quite a lot to handle if you're coming out of school, having just dealt
Yeah.
with Yamaha. So for me, there was a huge learning curve here.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
They do like Beatles tribute shows. So this was a
Sweet.
one of my favorite things. I really enjoyed mixing the Beatles.
That's cool. Yeah. That's great. Great thing to mix.
I mean, it's for a lot of older generation
Yeah.
folks, but man,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
still they love it. I got way too many noise complaints, and I was probably the loudest sound engineer on file. But wake up, people! You're on a
Yeah.
vacation.
Yeah. Just bump everything. Just bump the faders up a little
It's
bit.
okay. I'm like, they're not. They're just yellow. They're not red. Calm
Yeah.
down.
Exactly.
So, but that was real fun. So, I highly suggest doing stuff like that.
Yeah. That's great.
One of my favorite consoles. There was a little bit of sound issues with them.
Mm-hmm.
You would, there's a couple of things like I would instantiate a plugin in the middle of a show, and if you've
Uh-huh.
ever used these consoles, you can never put a plugin while you have audio going. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
there rocking around, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna drop in this little C6 on my vocal because
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
not? So there's this button that you have to push at the top of the console, and
Uh-huh.
it literally allows you to put these plugins in. But what I didn't know is that when you went to go exit out of the menu, okay,
Uh-huh.
plop it in. That's where I want it. Cool, 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 cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to engage it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what no one and I didn't know, and what was the worst moments, what felt like forever, was that when you do that, it stops all audio.
Oh, oh gosh. Yeah.
So it stops all audio. And so I have a band on stage going hard,
Yeah.
and it was the Beatles act.
Yeah.
And I just drop in this thing because I was stupid and I shouldn't have been
Yeah.
messing with it. And that's and like, if something's fine, just leave it. You don't need a plug-in. If you're not
Exactly.
using your high pass filter, low pass filter, you shouldn't be dropping a plug-in in.
Yeah.
Just stop. So I did that, and it felt like forever until that audio came back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because it doesn't just like come back. It
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
it just it comes back full boogie, like complete silence, right where you left off,
Yeah.
instantly. And you could see the reaction in the audience, just like
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
flying back, like as if they were hit with this fucking noise.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden the perceived loudness was louder.
Yeah.
And people were like, how the
Yeah.
are you doing
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
So I'm like, it was the same volume before I
Yeah,
before I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
instantiated the plugin, and then it came. Yeah. Anyway,
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, I
don't
get
push
you.
the big red button during a
Yes.
show.
Yes.
All I
Yes,
gotta
yes.
say.
Yeah, I've
So
not done that yet, but but I will not do that in the future. You know, that's not
it
my
was a
goal.
very, very funny learning experience for me. And
Mhm.
there was a host of other things I learned on that experience, but it
Mhm.
was really valuable.
That's great.
A lot of good people I met. This was my
Yeah.
first ship, the Royal Princess, which at the
Mhm.
time was the 8th largest cruise ship in the world. But now,
Cool.
not so much. I mean, they
Yeah.
make them the size of moving cities, so I'm
Yeah.
not really sure where that ranks.
Mhm.
But this was my second ship. I did 2 ships because I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Same console, same setup. They keep it
Sweet.
very uniformed throughout the fleet.
Mhm.
So they like to use those because they have good scene management, and like the scoping capabilities are
Yeah.
pretty handy. And it's like you haven't really seen that from Yamaha. So
Yeah.
on a console level, they were feeling, well, if we're going to do all of these different production shows and all of these guest entertainers,
Yeah.
what's a console that's like a Swiss Army knife? And so this is the one.
Yeah. Sweet.
And it was someone that can do a Yamaha
Mhm.
console operation, can step into this Avid operation, understanding what they're doing. All they got to do is get very familiar with the user interface and where things are, because a
Mhm.
gain is a gain, a high pass filter is a high pass
Yeah.
filter. It all does the same thing.
Exactly.
Whether it's an LS9 or a Digico SE7, a
Mhm.
gain knob does the same thing, and gain staging is the same everywhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're on a $250,000 console. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
I did a lot of time in churches.
Mhm.
I did a lot of time in churches, not because I'm really religious or anything,
Yeah.
but it was a great place to learn. And if you're a member of a church, I highly suggest getting involved with your media team, because there are churches that I've worked for as just a kind of a hired gun, if you will.
Uh-huh.
They have digicos on monitors and front of house, and you're sitting there going, this is an $800 direct box for a bass, and you have
Yeah.
5 of them.
Yeah.
Oh my God, like studio on stage.
Yeah.
So they have quite a bit of support through their congregation to give
Uh-huh.
them that, and so they
Yeah.
give that back to them. So that's very important for
Mhm.
that community. And I do a lot of installations for them
Yeah.
as well. So what you see here is an installation that I did for Christ Community Church in Cypress, California, down the street from Cypress College.
Nice.
They had a full analog system that, as most do over time, they
Yeah.
died and needed an upgrade. And so you can
Mhm.
see they had all these outboard compression. They had a graphic sitting up there for whoever, for whatever reason. So it was crazy to see that. And so you walk in and you're like, okay, I can make this sound not like the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
And this their solution was to go with the X30. I had spec'd it with working with their team and their
Uh-huh.
budget and restraints. We got them the X32 package. I was able to get them some stage boxes and some
Nice.
in-ear systems.
Great.
So now everyone can work on in-ears, and
Yeah.
we didn't need to upgrade their PA. But I tend to, whenever I move into a place to do sound, I
Mhm.
really try to work with them to, just so they're aware. I don't try to push their upgrade on them. I just can't help myself. I do it for the overall product, because just like I was in theater, even though that I've by this point in my life I had been kind of away from theater. I've been doing cruise ships, but it's all theater. It's all sound. It's all still connecting people with sound. So and for a church, that's what they need to connect with their whoever they're listening to, their pastor or their preacher. So that was important for them, and I cared about that, and so we were able to get this, and so I do that a lot. So it's a great way to make connections with manufacturers and vendors in your local area. So
great. But before we move on, we have a few questions on Facebook Live.
Please do it.
Let's see here. Doing Dodger McGee asks, Anthony, what is the importance of unions in tech theater?
I'm sorry, what? What's the importance of union?
Of unions in tech theater.
They're extremely important. I'm going to speak on behalf of what my interaction with the union has been. I am not a union member, so I do not know what the union could do for me as a member. So I'm not going to speak to what the benefits of being a member or not being a member is. But I interface with the union a lot, and without them, I could not do what I did on tour. In cities, when we go to Chicago, Los Angeles, we have to work with the unions. Not all places we went to on tour had the unions. We used Rhino staging in some places. Rhino is a labor contractor, and they do a lot of labor calls for big events, providing stagehand and specialized labor. So, when I was on tour with Cirque du Soleil, a standard Cirque du Soleil big top tour show is 70 semi trucks.
That's great. That's ridiculous.
And it's loaded in and fully calibrated in under 10 days and ready for an audience. So that wouldn't be possible if we didn't have the union, because when it's time to do a big top transfer, you'll see in my later pictures how big it is, and it will kind of encapsulate, like, there's over 300 stagehands from the union on a Cirque du Soleil load-in.
Wow.
That's pretty much a good portion of their call list.
Yeah.
In a big city.
Yeah.
And if they have another big event, like when I was in Chicago, we were splitting the union hands between their all-day load-in with us and an overnight load-in next door at the football stadium for BTS load-in, which was a 4-day load-in, because they had a giant stage. So the union is the literal backbone of the entertainment industry. Just because we're specialized, I mean, it took a union to get my console up. So when you want to talk about the importance of having the union, for someone like myself, it's very important.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Hope that answered the question.
Yeah. I think we answered that pretty well.
What else do we got from the live chat? Because I can keep going, but let's get that.
Let's see. P3 Theater Company asks, do you have any fun sound stories from featured entertainers on the ships?
Do I have any favorite stories?
Or fun sound stories?
Oh, well, I can speak to a few things. The guest entertainers that we get, they're usual. So we get a lot of them. They're very fun to work with. I think the funniest thing for me is seeing the difference in level of preparedness with all of these guest entertainers.
Yeah.
I know they all come semi-prepared, more prepared than others. And a lot of them just do stuff on the fly. So some funny things that I've got to participate in is I've gotten there's a guest entertainer called Diane Cousins. She does a lot of like English humor and stand-up comedy for the older generation. So anyway, she likes to do these music clips, and so she has this whole bit with the sound guy and playing the wrong song, and the guy gets to yell back at her, and so it kind of put me in the show for a little bit, and it's fun stuff like that.
Sweet.
Most of the stuff that I find funny now are honestly moments where I've messed up pretty hard, or found myself running I mean, I've been in a Cirque du Soleil show, and I'll admit this. I was running a song, a whole number in the scene that I just got done mixing, and I didn't hit the scene button, and I'm sitting there going, "Huh, sounds a little bit warm tonight," because the humidity had a big effect on it. And when you're mixing 400 shows, you're like, I think tonight's a little colder, because those are the differences you start to notice after 400 shows under a big top. No, I was actually just completely in just like the wrong scene.
Oh, wow.
And everything was just wrong. And I thought nothing was wrong until like, people were like, so the drums were a little hot tonight. And I'm like, is that what it was?
Yeah. Oh, really now? Yeah.
It's,
exactly.
So I find moments like that where, you got to remain sharp. You start to dull, you start to do that for that long, and you're not to say you get, you start to really know where everything sits, and where you can take breaks. And
definitely.
it's also so much muscle memory that I felt like I took it. I checked with my body in the beginning. I was like, body, did you push the button? Okay, you did. Okay. Because otherwise I would have this like little thing in the back of my head going, I don't remember you pushing the button. Check. But that wasn't there. So I totally sat in this whole thing, and I'm just sitting there going, like, enjoying it, because it was an easy number. I just kind of had to ride the vocal for that number, and just, what is happening?
Oh, wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But
question. Yeah, you're good. Let's see. Any more questions? Andrew, I can't say the last name. Is DJ AM Productions hiring? He asks.
And what's his last name?
Let me spell it out. GOCLOWSKI.
Yeah, tell him yes. That's my buddy Andrew. Tell him DJ. Because Andrew, at least I think this is Andrew Gugloski, but yeah. So as of right now, man, I would love to go out and DJ to make some money, but I'm too afraid of people right now. I actually played around with the idea of putting a drum shield up. I got buying a full enclosed drum shield and putting my booth inside that, and then putting the like speakers on the top. And just like, text me your requests. Me your requests.
That'd be cool though.
I did explore that idea, and if the world goes back before I actually get to start getting behind a real console, Andrew, calling you.
That's great. That's great.
Any more from the chat?
He also asks, also IBEW Local 40 represent.
Oh, says, yeah, for real. But Andrew and I used to work at Cypress College together. So.
Nice.
And he works now at Universal, doing some cool text, doing some very, very cool video stuff there. Very, very
awesome.
Very
cool. Awesome. I think that's it for live. I think it's it for the live chat.
Okay.
So you can continue.
Sure. So yeah, it was churches, and then after I got out of the cruise line industry, I went to go work for a local production company called Gear Connection. Now this is a privately owned company. It's like a mid-sized company, but the staff is very, very small. Yeah. We had a handful of very, very highly skilled engineers that we'd work with. So it was a perfect place to learn and come back to land too. Because after that cruise line, I was ready to do something else. Because I felt like this was all very similar and I could do this and get very comfortable here. But I started to plateau in terms of the learning curve, because as a cruise line operator, you're only allowed to do so much in terms of, you don't want to mess it up, because you do have to give it back to someone. Like I got this, like in the cruise line industry, your handover is you learn 10 shows in 10 days, and you watch the first show, you watch him mixing the second show, and then you mix the third show, and then you learn the new show the next day, and you do that for 10 shows. your trainer leaves, and then you have to do all 10 shows for the second time by yourself. So
Oh
it
wow.
was a very
Yeah.
quick learning process. So if you want to learn how to really cut your teeth and get your chops up, cruise lining is one of the way to one, explore the world.
Yeah.
I didn't have to get back on board until 3 p.m.
Yeah.
So I was on a beach for a long time. And
Yeah.
then I would walk in all suntanned and salty and, from Jamaica or
Yeah.
Aruba. And I'm like rolling into sound check in my flip flops. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, this could not get any better.
That's the life right there.
It was,
that's
and
the
I
life.
suggest you do it when you're young, because the cabin, you do live with somebody in a cabin with no
Yeah.
window inside. And my roommate was from the Philippines. Like, you have to be comfortable with living in a very sardine can life style. But it also becomes a very has that cast and crew family vibe, because entertainment. I mean, entertainment is a very small but also very big group of people on the ship, and they're usually the ones at the crew bar having fun. So
Yeah.
you can stick with your friends and everybody at the crew bar, and most of everyone on a cruise ship is very, very open, and I don't have any problems with anybody. If there's one thing I've learned about doing theater and touring and cruise ships, is that you are about to be amongst a very wide range of cultural backgrounds.
Yeah.
And that is probably the best part. That is probably the best part about it.
Yeah.
So this is a company that I worked for full time. I really enjoy full-time gigs. I've been able to keep full-time employment for a long time between all of these different jobs. And that has really given me the stability, which you don't get often in the sound industry. You don't get that. You're usually an independent contractor in Los Angeles, and now with AB5 in place, it's going to be even harder to be a freelance gig worker in Orange County and Los Angeles, which is just, I don't know how my friends that are currently doing that are even surviving right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very scary time for not only that, but for the AB5 law, which is a big deal for freelance people in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So if you can really write your congressperson or write your state senator about AB5, we should do it.
Yes, definitely.
Because that's going to kill any hope that the younger generation has to just freelance. I used to be able to go and just throw in a 1099 and screw it, I'll deal with it at tax time. I'm on this call. Like, that is going to be a harder thing for people. So
definitely.
It really is unfortunate. So I went full time with this company, and I really learned what concert audio was, like big boy audio, line arrays, massive amps. Now this company had a lot of legacy gear, and thank God for it, because it's not being used anymore. You don't see a PM5D run at monitors unless it's like very specifically requested. And I'm grateful that I was brought up on this console as a monitor engineer, and I really cut my teeth in running monitors for bands on this, and I became proficient at it to where I wasn't scared anymore. And that led me to a lot of fly-in work, where I would fly in after having no sleep for 24 hours to someplace in Boise, Idaho, to cover a monitor engineer gig, and then fly back after the 2 a.m. loadout. I haven't slept for 48 hours, but hey man, that's the life. And stuff like that really is what I really tried to do. Anytime I was given an opportunity, whether it was, hey, can you get to Boise, Idaho tomorrow for a 9 a.m. loadout? It's the day before at 6 p.m. and your flight is at 4 a.m. and you're currently at a gig that your loadout doesn't go till 2. And you're like, so I go home, I sleep for 2 hours. I'm on a gig right now. I'm already tired. But I'm getting this call to go to Boise right now, tomorrow, 4 a.m. And I went. And then I got to save this guy. He had an emergency. I walked in. I had no experience with the band. This was an R&B artist. I had not listened to their music. This was an artist called Somo. He was on a club tour around the U.S. We were at the Knitting Factory, and I had never even met the guy, heard his music or anything. So while I was on the plane, I did as much research as I could. And I walked in with a stage plot, a show file, and an input list to
Wow.
cases that were just spaghetti of cables,
Yeah.
microphones and pillowcases. I was like, what in the world
Oh
is
gosh.
this?
Wow.
I pray to God there was some kind of label. So anything that looked like a piece of tape, I was inspecting, because it
Yeah.
maybe had text on it telling me what I had to do.
Yeah.
And and I ended up just piecing together that gig last minute and made a very, very big impact on the band from some dude that just walked in here, had no experience with the band. I was like, I'm gonna mix your monitors, people I've never met,
Yeah.
and I hope I don't mess this up.
Yeah.
I had a phone call with your dude, and that was about it. I'm not gonna tell him that, but you walk in and you're ready to smile and dial, as they call it, baby. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
how's it
Exactly.
going? Oh no, yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst part is that the sound check rolled around at 6 o'clock. I was a zombie at that point.
Yeah.
And the singer walks in. He's like, "Who the f is this guy?
Yeah.
Who the?" And mind you, I'm like the only light-skinned fella on the gig,
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm like, "Oh boy, well, I'm here. I'm saving Johnny." You know,
Exactly.
he called me. He referred me from a friend. I'm Anthony. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Here's your mic. Your ears are clean. You got full battery. Let me know what you need. And I mean, from there, he was like glaring at me. He's like, I don't like this dude.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh man, we did the sound check. We did the acoustic sound check, and he didn't say anything. He walked away. We did the show, and then after the show, he went to his manager, and the manager said, so Joe wants to know when." His name was Joe, the artist's real name. So Joe wants to know, how available are you? And I was like,
gosh.
He goes, now this is at 2 a.m. after we just loaded the gear.
Oh my gosh.
So, here I am about to make a 4 a.m. flight back to Los Angeles, now going on more than I really should have been. It was not healthy to be
definitely not.
It was definitely not healthy, and I don't sleep well in planes, so this was very difficult. So, and I ended up doing a couple more of those gigs for that group. And if I hadn't been trained by Gear Connection to mix monitors the way, for that kind of style, like I was trained to be able to put a microphone in the wedge and it be stable. So, if it feeds back, you really need to do something else. So, I'm thankful for that. But that was all working for a production company that was very small. There was only there was maybe 4 or 5 full-time employees. That was it. The owner, 5 guys, 2 of us or 3 of us were the main production managers, and we were responsible for mixing pretty much all of the corporate, theater, smaller concerts. And then we had our hired guns to come in for the big concerts. And we worked with those guys, but we were the deck crew. So it was extremely beneficial. I mean, that environment was like, I was the warehouse guy. I managed the inventory. I worked out the rentals. I beeped in, beeped out equipment, did invoices, worked the register, full warehouse. That was probably the most important part of the education, because I no longer set crap back in a road case from a gig piled up like crap.
Yeah.
I took the time to wrap every cable because I was that shop guy. And man, when a truck comes in on Monday morning and it's nothing but just 2x4 cases of nothing but spaghetti XLR, and you're like, this will take me till 2 p.m.
Exactly.
All good, man. But this is what I'm doing today. The shop guys, let them do more important things. Let them try. If they don't want to untangle your spaghetti, they're cursing you in the shop, going, "These fucking assholes." God forbid you go. Excuse my language, but God forbid you go do a show build in the warehouse with these guys, and he's like, "Oh, you're the guy."
Oh yeah.
So it all comes full circle. So doing all of these different jobs, I call myself a sound enthusiast because I've been a warehouse guy, I've been a sound technician, I've been the RF tech, I've been the A2, I've been the mixer, I've been the A1, and everywhere they have different titles, and it's all confusing. In theater, there's a whole nother lingo of ranking. So I just go by sound technician because I mix front of house, I mix monitors, I PA tech, I system tech. I am even getting decent at networking. So,
Yeah.
you
You've
know,
done everything,
you have to,
basically. Yeah,
if
exactly.
you want to be employed, you want to do this full time,
Yeah,
you got to do everything you can. So churches, production companies,
yeah,
I mean, DJing was just my thing,
yeah.
but it is a thing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely.
So now I'll talk about Cirque because I feel like that's kind of the big one.
Yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure.
my introduction to Cirque was pretty awesome. I'm just gonna say that right now because I was very lucky to have the show that I did.
Uh-huh.
I applied to be on a show called Luzia. They needed to have a temporary replacement sound technician to come
Uh-huh.
fill in for someone that was going on a sabbatical. So I applied and I got a interview. And this was not my first Cirque interview. I had a couple more that I didn't do so well in. So this was
Uh-huh.
probably my third interview with Cirque. And I had been applying for probably 6 to 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
By this time it was 2017. I was 27. I had been doing sound stuff since I was 15. I was like, dude, honestly, I can see in pictures what this stuff is. I think I can do this,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I went to see Curious at Dodger Stadium when it was in town all
Uh-huh.
those years ago. And I was just like, man, this is what I need to be doing. It was like a big top, sitting in a circus. I was watching
Yeah.
Curious, which is one of Cirque's best shows,
Uh-huh.
in my opinion. Corteo is another favorite, even though I haven't seen it. I just know I know it's amazing. Um, and uh, so I applied and I had an interview and I was able to uh, I mean, I got brought on, man. There's no
Yeah.
other way. I was I was sitting there kind of beside myself when I got that phone call,
Mm-hmm.
uh, thinking like, are you serious? Like these people travel the world. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I'm gonna leave again. And I had just gotten home.
Uh-huh.
And I was
Yeah.
like, you know, but
Yeah.
I'd never been so excited.
Yeah.
So I joined Luzia in Denver and I toured with them for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And mixed well, I learned how to move a big top, learned how to put up a giant circus tent.
Yeah.
And when you tour on a big top, it really is one team, one dream,
Mm-hmm.
in the respect that it takes everybody, a village, all the terms you've ever heard. It really does. Because like I
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, there's 70 trucks on these shows.
That's
And
crazy.
I mean, there's just 10 trucks of air conditioning,
Yeah.
5 trucks of a kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just the entire, like, there's nothing there when we get there. There's just a parking lot. So you see the flooring here, all of
Mm-hmm.
these seats, the
That's great.
stage,
Yeah.
all of the rigging,
Mm-hmm.
everything that's hanging on the masts.
Yeah.
That's all in road cases. The stuff that the big orange papel,
Uh-huh.
uh, it's all pieced together from
Yeah.
being in road cases. And we pack them in 2,600 people.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy. Lucia was a great show to work on. There's about 120 inputs
Uh-huh.
um, between the live band and some sound effect tracks that were kind of flying around in the background of
Uh-huh.
the music. But for the majority of the music, it's all live, which is incredible. The front of house console is a Yamaha CL5 with the CL1
Nice.
attached,
You can
and that's
combine those,
cascaded
right?
through.
They're combined,
Yeah,
right?
we combine. Yep,
Sweet.
exactly. We combine those through ether sound. Uh,
Cool.
we use QLab
Yeah.
to run the sound effects, as you can see on the screen there.
That's a great program.
And it's a really great program.
Yeah.
When I do my sound designs for like musicals, I
Mm-hmm.
really rely on QLab a
Yeah.
lot for all of my MIDI triggering and also for just sound effects playback. But I've
Yeah.
really utilized the MIDI triggering if I need to hit a sound effect and change a scene at the same time. I will do that via MIDI so that I can free up my hands
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I'll also play with lighting a little bit and trigger some lightning flashes if we're in
Yeah.
the same, if we need to, if we're in the same queue and we all need to go at the same time. I will just be like, hey, do you mind if I just take it? That way
Yeah.
it's, one less thing for you to do.
Exactly.
Touring with this show brought a lot of things that I didn't know that I was going to get myself into, like the construction aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
it goes from a theater to a construction site pretty much instantly after the last person leaves the big top. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of stuff coming down. Again, we have a lot of union hands. You can see this is just the beginning of it. The seats were just taken down. This is probably a good 20 minutes into the loadout that you're seeing. And there's already cases on stage.
Yeah.
The chairs have, well, this maybe not 20 minutes in the loadout, but this is fairly early into the loadout because the bleachers are down or the chairs are out.
Yeah.
But it goes very quickly, and you're down and out in a day and a half. You're packed up in the truck, and you're doing the last day of teardown, which is just the tent. Everything comes out. We strip the inside, and it turns into we all become stagehands. So no longer a sound team, a lighting team. And that goes along with all the auxiliary tents, like the flooring for the training room. You have to do flooring and a lot of other stuff that's really, really laborious. And once the big top comes down, you're in the elements, you're in the sun. When shows just begin, they're usually in the snow.
Oh, wow.
So you're doing a loadout in the snow. And this loadout period, when you're in the construction outfit and you're doing the construction crap, it's about 2 weeks. And so it can get testing. Because it's like, how about a load in and then a load in and then followed by another load? Oh, and then how about a load in? You want some more load in? I got it for you.
Yeah. Wow, that's ridiculous. That's amazing how that happened so quickly, and just how much work goes into that.
It really takes an army. It really takes an army. But that's why Cirque can do things that normal companies can't do. Because we spend 4 days of that setup time just validating every little inch of every acrobatic winch. The automation team is checking that every tolerance is where it should be. Every limit is set where it should be. And every artist is comfortable. And they come in one by one and validate, okay, I'm going to go up on the trapeze. I'm going to come down on the trapeze. I feel good. I feel good. You feel good. My coach, the medical team feels good. The automation guy feels good. And I mean, literally there's 2 days of just that.
That's crazy.
So when you see a Cirque du Soleil show and you're like, dear God, that's death defying, or my God, how did it's very expensive, and it takes a lot of patience and really a level of focus that you really have to give yourself when you're mixing these shows, especially as a mixer. You have to give yourself to the show. Because I've made myself cry behind sound consoles mixing the ballad of Act 1. And that if I'm not doing that, how do I expect an audience to do that? So when you're doing Cirque, you have to give that, but also be very hyper aware that lighting cue didn't go. Why? Is an acrobat night in the right place? Are we about to stop? Or is it just lighting's late? Usually lighting's just late. That's just me. I'm just kidding. All lighting people, I love you.
Yes.
I was one of you. Not for long though. So this was my first show, Luzia. This is Volta. It's very different.
Oh wow.
So this had a lot of extreme sports. So this had skateboard ramps and had BMX ramps.
That's sweet.
We had a full BMX section in the show on a revolving stage. There's a revolving half pipe and a BMX team that would do flares, whips, and all the cool stuff. And this is where I was really introduced to what's called LCS. That is a Meyer sound product. If you look at my sound console, it doesn't look like anything normal.
Yeah, it looks different.
It looks a little different, right?
Yeah.
It looks a little. This is LCS Q console. This is a build your own. I'm just gonna put it very This was developed by Jonathan Deans and a few other people as a way to do immersive audio for live entertainment. And this uses equal amplitude panning between a lot of individual buses to then create what's like a hotspot or like a flashlight of sound, if you will. And you can use volume to push and move audio. So it's a little bit different than like Eliza or D&B Soundscape or all these other immersive platforms that we're seeing come out.
Yeah.
These LCS is really is been around for a long time in a variety of different forms. There was a few different modules, but now they have Dimitri, which is their latest IO box. Allows you to have as many inputs and outputs as you want. And you have the option to use this surface that I'm using here in the picture called a fader pack or a transport module to cue and use the console. Any one of these faders can be a VCA, it can be a channel strip, it can be a panner, it can be at the bottom and go to the top, and it can be a panner, on a fader if I wanted to track movement. If I wanted to do something like that. There's a lot of other modules that you can have attached, but for this show, we only had 2 fader pack modules and a transport module that had our sound effects go pretty much our Q lab.
Yeah.
But it's called Wild Tracks, and it's an internal Meyer Sound product that it's Dimitri Wild Tracks. It's a Meyer Sound product. It basically is a sound effects deck, has 2 different decks, and you can play from these decks.
Sweet.
It's really cool. And it's really complex with the queuing and everything, because you're queuing. If you're using a different console, say you do like a Digico console into that Dimitri thing, and not use their LCS fader pack here that you see in the picture, that would be a little bit more complex with the queuing, because you'd have the console's internal queuing system from, like, say, a Digico, and you're stepping through a show, but then you're also firing MIDI cues over to Dimitri Q Station, which is the software that does all the space map panning and immersive technology. You have 2 different cue lists that you have to track with, and they run in a way that if you don't start from the top and go through in order, your programming is not just recall here, recall there, recall here. It's, hold on, I got to go to the back of the top, initialize, step through my startup, then I'm going to then fire my cues to make sure all of my cues were taken on both sets of consoles. So when you get to like Cirque du Soleil, it's like, I'm not just hitting Q Lab. I kind of am. That's our backup system, especially here on Volta was our Q Lab. But it, like, there's so much more under the button now. Like, yes, it's still the same button, but that's a macro, and it triggers 50,000 things. And once you start that macro, like, all this stuff happens, and you're like, oh, great, now I have 30 seconds to wait. And I took it early. Can't do anything, and God forbid you stop the queue in the middle. So, it really gets get going there.
That's
so
intense.
I left this show in September of 2019. So I mixed my last show. I actually mixed my last show on September 19th, because I left to go do what I'm currently doing now, which I'm very excited about and very sad it didn't happen when it was, is the new Disney Cirque du Soleil show, Drawn to Life.
Nice.
So this is what I was doing when I was pulled away for COVID. I had left the touring division and decided to transition to the live sound, or sorry, the live sound. Oh, my brain.
You're good.
Transition to the resident show. Excuse me. And for the reasons of, I wanted to do a creation. I had done a lot of tech rehearsal, like in theater and everything. You go through it and you're like, man, I really love tech. It's like, great. You want to come do a Cirque du Soleil creation? It's 4 months of tech. But the thing with this show is, this was, if you've ever been to Walt Disney World, this was the old Lanuba Theater. So this was, Lanuba ran for 20 years, or it's really like 17. But it was there for a long time. And Disney wanted to reuse the building because it's still a great, great, great theater. And so they tore it out, and they got with the show creators, the show director of Curious, and a few other people from the Cirque du Soleil creative camp. Michelle Laprise is the director of it, and Jonathan Deans is actually the sound designer of this show. And if you Jonathan Deans is one of is a very prominently known sound designer. Has designed shows all over Broadway. Cirque du Soleil I believe he is their favorite for at least the resident show division. And he was also the original sound designer of Lanuba. So it made sense for him to come back and give it a version 2.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so when I got the call to be on that show, or I had applied, mind you, I will say that I applied for that job 1 hour before the window for applications was closed.
Oh, wow.
So I had been thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I'm touring, I'm mixing. I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I really going to go? And you know what? It was really a decision that I had to really not wrestle with, but I just had to think this was worth it, because you know, touring is something that I wanted to do ever since I was in college. So I did it, and I then got hired on and show up and actually get a call, you know, discussing the kind of arrangements. And then I get told, by the way, the sound designer is Jonathan Deans. And there was a moment where I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I hung up the phone, and I had been a fan of Dean's and his work, and have taken multiple master classes with him in New York.
Oh, wow. Really?
As a student. Sweet. And I've followed his work for a long time. So for me, it was probably one of the biggest moments of my sound career, was to be on a 5-person sound team, and the head of my team was Jonathan Deans.
That's crazy.
I was selected by the Cirque du Soleil resident show team as to come into this creation, and that, Jonathan was given this team, so it's not like he handpicked us all, but we got to work with his assistant, and these people were really pulled together for this show for around Jonathan and some of the other people involved, like Rob Mealy, who's the network engineer, used to work for Meyer Sound, Dave Wallace, who is the head of sound of Lanuba for 20 years, and then the 3 other Davids that are on the team. So it's David, and Anthony. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
man.
That's funny.
It's like on the radio, we're like D1 for 2, 2 for 3, 3 for 2. And then we have David Dabo D4. So we just D Quattro. Yeah, just to mix it up.
That's funny.
And so, it's just like, go find David. Which one?
and then there's Anthony. Just out of the mix.
Yeah. Now and there's always Anthony, but it's like
it's David.
But it's awesome because having that many people on a crew really allows a lot of personalities and a lot of background experience, because we don't all have the same experience. And that was a brilliant move by our boss, because we all complement each other, I think, in really great ways. And that is a very good move for just team building. I mean, if we were all the same person, I don't think we would, or if anyone was on a team with themselves, I don't think much work would ever really get done.
For sure.
Having the diversity is key. And so I'm very excited to get back to this when we do.
Exactly. Soon, hopefully.
I mean, so, it's been a long journey to get to this point. Going from that first slide of me at the cheerleading game, to then getting to be on this show, it's something that, I'm very proud of for myself. And, I think that a lot of other people could do this, and a lot of people could and get to where I was very easily. There's just a lot of noise out right now. And I think if not just with everything that's going on, I think just in sound, I think there's a lot of good information and a lot of bad misinformation. So there's a lot for sound, I'm trying to do my own thing where I started a private community called Sound Strategy. That is a group of my friends and close people that I've worked with that I know want to do better, and that they could be a total beginner or someone like yourself that just wants to know, how do we get from Yamaha consoles to somewhere they have like Waves plugins, man? Because I really want to do like Waves plugins. I want to help with that. So if you're watching this and you want to do better with sound, and I encourage you, Ethan, if you want to join my group, it's open right now. It's something that I will close down later. I do close to a closed group later. I want to create this environment where we can share ideas and how to get from where I was at my high school level to
Yeah.
where I've been, and not based off what I've done, but based off where people are at, what they want to know, and what they need to succeed. Because right now it's a total bummer, like where no one. I mean, I want to help people get better at live sound when no one can go touch a console right now. That's kind of
Exactly.
depressing.
I miss touching a console. I'm like, I need to get back to my
Man,
school.
I
It's like,
got itchy fingers.
I know, right? It's like, yeah.
Multi-tracking, friends. If you haven't done multi-tracking to keep yourself sharp, telefunkenmics.com has a big multi-track collection. Go do it. And
Nice.
Ken Lewis Mixing Audio School. That's not a shameless plug, but I follow that. It's pretty good stuff. But if you're interested in joining my group, please check me out, Sound Strategy on Facebook, or Anthony Murano on IG. The O is an X because I'm that different. And there was already another Anthony Murano on there. So if you want to follow my work, follow me, add me on Facebook. LinkedIn link is there. And if you want to call or text me, I dare you, but don't do it while I'm sleeping. I'm kidding. You could I just won't hear it. But yeah, I really, thank you. I think I don't know what else to say. I don't know what kind of time limit we've blown through. I really
we are totally good. Thank you so much, man. This is like great. I love. Yeah. Sorry.
Is there any other questions that you wanted to?
I was just gonna, if you want to go into more detail about like consoles you've used, you have, but what your favorite console you use, you've kind of said. I don't know. We can mix it up. I don't know. Is there any other questions down here? It's Facebook Live.
Yeah, go ahead and check to see if we got any people coming.
P3 said, P3 Theater Company said, explain AB5 and the effects it has on technicians.
Oh man, I wish I knew so much more. I'm not even reading the articles because I'm not in LA right now. But I know that it is damaging the freelance environment. It is, from my understanding, and please don't quote me on this because I'm not an expert in the fact, but it is 1099 is kind of a gone with the past thing in terms of contractors being able to just come in, be an outside contractor, do their gig, get paid, and then deal with taxes later. It's now kind of requiring them to have a lot more regulation on that. The companies are going to have to make people employees, I believe, for them to work. It's like there's all of these stipulations, and basically the freelance gig life is it's stifled basically that life. And I don't want to say cut it dead, but I'm pretty confident that it's not a good thing. But I have a lot of friends that work in the TV industry out there, and they're really like, I had friends that literally went up to Sacramento and sat in the courtroom, and they tried to talk to their congressperson about it, and it fell on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So it's something it's not the biggest deal right now, which is why a lot of people probably aren't talking about it. But for those who it's directly affecting, it is everything.
Exactly.
It is everything. That's the way that they're getting their gigs. That's the relationships that they've had built.
Definitely.
And imagine you are a company, and I love my favorite freelancer, like at Gear Connection, we had our favorite freelancers. I don't know what that means for my ex-boss. I don't know what that means. He has to hire them full time, but that now opens up a whole nother level of complex issues that now employees and owners of companies are going to have to do, and it's going to cost them more money, and they're not even gigging right now. Everyone have their calendars wiped. So it's bad all over, man. It's just it's really bad all over. And if it just
I think has that been an issue? That's a recent thing, right? But I think I've heard a little bit. That's recent, right? Like that's a recent thing.
Yeah, I believe it's somewhat recent, but definitely not not like this past month or something, but it's
Yeah, no,
probably in the
yeah.
last 6 months I started
Okay.
hearing rumblings of this
Yeah.
frustration from my friends in LA.
Yeah, yeah, I have heard that too. But I mean, and also, I mean, pandemic also brings everyone down. Is no one's no one's working at. It's very unfortunate. Um, and I wish we could get back to it. Because I miss doing school shows, and it's just not you know not
Yeah,
ideal for all of us.
it's not, and a lot of people. But what you can do during this time is do all the trainings that if you were in school or you were working, do all the trainings, watch all the videos, get all the
Yeah.
certifications, uh, do all the things, learn about Dante, take the Dante courses,
Hmm.
get your resume looked at by someone,
Yeah.
so that when you come back, you are focused, you're updated, you're
Hmm.
leveled up,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have to fight through every single engineer to get their gigs back,
Yeah.
and that is scary. I can't imagine what it's like for someone on the beginning part of this to then want to jump into this after what just happened to our industry.
Yeah.
It, and
Yeah.
that's part of the reason I started my group, because I believe that it will come back. I mean, it's
Yeah. Oh, it will.
believing whether
Yes.
it's come to come back. It's going to. It's just,
Hmm.
will
It's a
people stick
process.
to it? Will people want to contribute or want to continue their learning, their journey?
Yeah.
To like, oh well, I just saw what happened. There's no way I'm pursuing that little kind
Yeah.
of idea I had. I want to grab those person and say, come here, say goodbye bye to your friends and family, come join Sound,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
no, and don't look back.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly. Which
so
I would love to join your group.
please do,
Yes, yeah, I
please
would love
do.
to.
Sound Strategy on Facebook. I will send you a link
Okay,
to do
please.
that.
Yes.
And I hope to assist people, with whatever they're dealing with right now in terms of
Yeah.
what's stopping them from getting to the next job, or what is uh, tripping them at work from getting the mixing position. Rather than, I'm always the A2, but I'm never the mixer. Why?
Yeah.
Let's figure that
Yeah.
out. let's
Exactly.
let's what doubts do you have? What are you insecure? So, and
Hmm.
that could be privately one-on-one with me, which is what I hope to do one day, as a not an educator but more of a consultant and a career coach.
Hmm.
And I've had a lot of success with that on my personal on my side.
Uh-huh.
Finding a mentor is probably the one thing that has benefited me the most. So if you can find yourself a mentor, walk into a production company, tell them you want to push a box, they might teach you something that's more
Hmm.
valuable than going to school,
Exactly.
in my opinion. It's just my
Hmm.
opinion.
For
Nowadays, I
sure.
can't see really a lot of people wanting to justify a whole college experience
Yeah.
to just do theater sound unless they have a very specific thing. I don't know. I don't think I mentioned this, but I applied to grad school for my master's in sound design
Hmm.
and engineering, and I came runner up, and I was given an option to come back next year and get accepted, but I decided not to, because I had that second opportunity. Is that I went all the way to applying for it, getting the interview, doing that, getting the
Hmm.
rejection letter, and just being a guy that worked in the warehouse, I was faced with a point. And I was like, do I continue to go to school for something that obviously I just got rejected from a sound design program and I'm a
Yeah.
sound designer?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Hmm.
Maybe it wasn't for me. But what was for me was doing 3 years in Cirque du Soleil. That, in my opinion, my first show was my freshman year. My second show was my sophomore year. And my
Exactly.
show that
Yeah.
I'm on right now might as well be my thesis.
Yeah.
So my point is that I'm a constant learner. Is that
Yeah.
I'm looking at every job I've had as a learning opportunity. And I still am sitting here with white papers and Live Sound magazine and
Yeah.
getting my coffee and reading what is hot, listening to sound podcasts. There's
Yeah.
so many out
Yeah.
right now.
Are there
There's so
good
many good
ones? Because
ones.
I'm trying to
Oh my
find
god.
some. Just
Um,
send me some, please.
okay. Signal to Noise podcast. Signal to Noise podcast.
Uh-huh.
Roadie Radio.
Hmm.
Sound Design Live. DC Sound Opt. I mean,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
they will refer you
Yeah.
to all of them.
Have you
But
have you have you heard Mackie? Mackie has a podcast, The Ins and Outs with Mackie. Have you heard that on?
No, I haven't, but that's a great name. Ins and Outs. I like that.
Yeah, the Ins and Outs. Yeah, you should go check it out. It's good.
For all the sound girls out there, Sound Girls has now got a podcast. This is huge. Awesome. Super cool. They just had Robert Scoville on there, who is the front of house engineer for Tom Petty.
Wow, that's crazy.
There's so many good resources online for learning about audio. If you don't, Pooch has got a webinar series. Pooch mixes for Linkin Park and Iron Maiden, Justin Bieber. And he goes over everything that we've kind of gone over today, but in just really big level detail. And you're hearing from the pros. That's crazy. If you're going to be a sound person in this field, especially during this time, just surround yourself with all the information, podcasts, magazines, the digital version now, everything, do it all. And have it for breakfast, have it for lunch, have it for dinner.
Exactly.
And wake up wanting to dive into a multi-track. I feel bad for my girlfriend. She just, I sit on the multi-track all day dissecting a show I did. She's like, why are you listening to that? I'm like, because I've never heard this part of this music before, even when I mixed 400 shows of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still dissecting shows that I've done years ago because there's so much to learn. Because when you're there, you're just trying to
do it. Exactly. Yeah.
You're just trying to do it. So.
Yeah, I get you. But, that's great.
Stay sharp. Keep learning. Keep being a sponge of knowledge. And you know what? And I'm glad I thought about this. Signal to Noise podcast. They have a mentorship program. They do. You can sign up and find a mentor that you want to work with, someone that has your interest or experience of expertise. You can go in there. It's totally free. Signal to Noise podcast. They have a mentorship program. I was thinking about doing it, and I'm, now that I'm talking about it, I think I might want to sign up to be a mentor, or to be mentored, because you can do both. Because I'm still on my journey. I hope to one day maybe, do associate sound design work as an associate, and maybe an assistant engineer, designer, and I'll even say ambitiously, I'm a Broadway mixer. But that all, everyone wants to be a mixer, but I really love planning out shows, drawing signal flow diagrams, and doing that. So associate work is something that I'm looking into, and I really want to get into. And hopefully one day be my own sound designer, on a respectable level. And then the little high school boy inside me is yelling, "Say, I want to win a Tony Award." So I want to win a Tony Award. I will say that. So
wow, that's great.
And I'm unapologetic about it, man. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm chasing that. And if I never get there, then great. And if I get there, then great.
Yes. It's both great ways. It's great. And thank you so much.
No problem, dude. I'm so glad to have the chance to speak with you.
It was amazing.
Really share this time with you, man.
For sure. Thank you. We're going to wrap that up, guys, for our episode. But thank you again, man. And I really appreciate it. And thank you for all you guys watching.
All right. Thanks, man.
Take
care.
You too.
Later, man.
Bye. You too.